All right, let's get back to what we talked about early on in the show, and that is your little trip down the memory lane at Ohio Stadium, one of the great venues in all of sports, no question about that. And it was supposed to be yesterday where it was going to be the spring game, and not usually, but a couple of times they've hit 100,000 fans out there at $5 a pop. I think the money always went to charity, did it not?
You know what? I don't know for sure. I know they've done canned food drives as part of it before. The thing that I like best about it is that it's a chance for people who can't get there in the fall to take their kids to an Ohio State game. And I had things in my life when I was a kid where my parents maybe couldn't afford to go to the real thing, so they'd take you to the fake thing, and you don't know the difference. You're in Ohio Stadium, and there are Buckeyes on the field. What a great day that is. So I love that opportunity for fans.
I've fessed up on this on the air a few times that when my kids were young, I would take them to the circus or somewhere, and I didn't tell them there was such a thing as intermission. I said, "Okay, kids, time to go. We're out of here." And my son was in his mid-teens before he figured out that we never had a problem getting out of the traffic jams.
See, but they weren't scarred or anything. They still had a great outing with their dad. I think. But there was an amusement park my parents took me to. You park your car, you ride the tram in from the parking lot. I thought that was the ride. I thought that was the park.
Let's go on that one again, Dad.
Yeah, and I did a story about this a couple of years ago. I mean, again, the cheap games, the lousy games against MAC teams are $70 for Ohio State now, and the good games are almost $200. For a family, you throw in food and parking and everything else.
No,
that is something that a lot of people can do, but you can pay, and you can always get a ticket for the spring game. You don't have to know somebody. You pay $20 for a family of 4. You show up and you get to experience something. The weather is usually pretty good in the spring. I really felt that loss. That sort of hit me on Saturday. I was sitting and writing about it, and then I said, I'm going to go down there. And to just walk around that stadium and realize what it should have been and what it wasn't, was, we all have different moments during this where it's kind of driven home for us. That was a moment where it was kind of driven home for me.
You also, you said what the temperature, the weather was at all these big Ohio State-Michigan games or any other game. And you're not going to get perfect spring weather for this, but it's still going to be good enough for football.
And I know people love football weather. I'm getting old when it's damp. It hurts my bones. I'll take spring. I know people like the fall because that's when football is, but I like football in the spring. So, I mean, it really is a fun day, and it bothers me in the past. Sometimes people have seen when Ohio State drew 99,000, they drew 100,000, and people make smart remarks about, like, why are that many people showing up to a practice? And it's because it's cheap family fun, and people in Ohio love football, and what a great Saturday in April it can be. So I don't like it when people make fun of people for showing up for the spring game.
So who do you root for, a good offense or a good defense?
Well, you root for touchdown passes. I mean, you just root for 70 touchdown passes. But and that's the things that they had a quarterback competition in the spring game a couple years ago, and the loser went on to win the Heisman.
That's the best he could have done.
Like that. Urban Meyer's tweeting out a photo this week of Chase Young sacking Joe Burrow. It's the probable number 2 pick in the draft, hitting the number 1 pick in the draft. It was from the spring game when they were 2 Buckeyes going against each other. You actually also end up seeing some interesting, good football during the spring game.
Was there any question that Burrow should not have been the starter at Ohio State based on what we knew at that time?
No, I thought, and I remember writing it that day, there was a throw that Dwayne-Haskins made on that day that was just like a perfectly placed 30-yard throw into the corner of the end zone. And I was like, that's the throw. It's got to be Dwayne.
Yeah.
It's got to be Dwayne. And so if people do think, and I think people learned by the end of Joe Burrow's season, it wasn't that Ohio State didn't give him an opportunity, and it wasn't that Ohio State made a mistake letting Joe Burrow go. Dwayne Haskins finished 3rd in the Heisman that year. Dwayne Haskins threw more than 50 touchdown passes. So they picked the right guy, and then it just so happens the guy who finished 2nd and left improved himself and got a lot better. And so Joe Burrow was awesome, but Ohio State didn't make a mistake in that quarterback battle.